In today's global economy, quality matters. Benjamin Franklin once quipped, "The bitterness of poor quality remains long after the sweetness of low price is forgotten." Quality Matters is here to talk about all things quality. So whether you're looking to improve your business, getting ready for an audit, or dealing with failed inspections, tune in, check us out, then get back to doing work that matters.
Well, hello and welcome back to the Quality Matters podcast, brought to you by Texas Quality Assurance, where quality management gets simplified. I am Kyle Chambers, and we have another guest on our podcast today. So, Damian, go ahead and say hi. And you and I kind of met in a little different manner here, but I've been really kind of impressed with your experience and insight. So give us a quick introduction to yourself here.
All right. Hey, guys. I am Damian Gangoo. Been doing quality management, quality-related in the field for approximately 12 years. Quality auditor, implementer, engineer. Worked in a lot of different industries: oil and gas, aerospace, automotive.
And that's kind of what I found interesting. You've got quite the interesting background here and wide variety of experience. You know, I joke a lot of times that I've never met anyone that actually set out with the intent of being in quality, but you've kind of wound up there in a variety of circumstances. So
yeah, that's right. In the beginning, after I finished school, one of the things I decided to do is go into a trade. So I pursued welding. I actually wanted to do inspection and advanced inspections. Pretty fascinated about the process and, what they do. But I figured in order for me to go in there, I need to understand a little bit more of what I'm inspecting, right?
Go figure.
Yeah, looked at some of the college classes and so forth in the early stages, and I figured it may not be the right approach.
Wait,
at least at that
telling
stage.
Me colleges don't have tons of courses on welding and inspection and all the real world stuff that we have to do every day?
Yeah, very minimal, right? Very
very
minimal.
Such a thing. Never heard that before.
So I went into that field. Did welding for a while, I think 2 or 3 years, and cool. I got in doing more and more the regular inspections. Started doing advanced inspections. This was back in the day when digital radiography was just coming in onto the scene, I guess, and they didn't trust the digital radiography. They leaned more on the ultrasonic inspections.
Yep.
So we worked a lot with a lot of companies to try to proof up those, so that kept me busy for a while. And during my journey there, being able to go to these different facilities and plants and so forth is where I kind of saw that there was that big gap where, yes, we provide them the data, but what do they do with the data, right?
Yeah.
I started branching off.
So many folks just want, all they want is just pass fail, and it's not always that clear cut. It's like, well, yeah, it failed, but we don't have to scrap everything. I mean, if we've got some repair specs and we got someone with a little bit of a level head, we can save a ton of costs here, save a ton of time. But, I have not the same, but somewhat similar background. Mine started in IT. That's what I went to school for management information systems. And so I wound up spending a few months where I was running our inspection bay at a previous company. And same thing, we were doing all of the ultrasonic inspection, the liquid penetrant. I didn't get in much in the radiography, but I've seen some really cool stuff that folks do there. But it was the same thing. We'd hand, the inspection report over. They're like, well, which ones are bad? I'm like,
right. There's
so much more here than that.
Right. I think, I, for example, just going back to one of my earlier experiences, I came up. I think It's the interest, right, of the individual, and where they see themselves in the long term. You
Sure.
know, I remember when I first started off in radiography, and I was training my level 2. You
Yep.
know, he sent me up on a tower. It looked like 150 foot high at that time, but he sent me up there with all my gear. You know, all
Mhm.
the source, the shit cranks, film,
Yep.
and everything. To shoot one weld. He
Yeah.
said, if you don't get this right, you're gonna have to climb all the way back up and do it again.
That's the
You know,
motivation there.
so he asked a couple guys. You know, they took it in a negative way,
Yeah.
but it's the perspective you look at it, right?
Mhm.
I got up there, I did it, I processed my own film. He
That's
actually
really
had
cool.
me site develop,
That's
which
cool.
was a challenge in itself. So site developed it, everything looked good. Later on, I asked him, why'd you why didn't you give me one that's on the ground? We have, a
Yeah.
shot list of 50 of them on the ground. So his response was, if I gave you the hardest one, I knew you would take your time and you would get it done and you would do it right, because you don't want to go back up there.
Yep. Yep.
So,
Yep.
but,
But there's a lot of truth to that. And I think, I mean, that's something that's just kind of good to ponder on, is so many folks try to find the easiest path from point A to point B, and then they never can understand why they couldn't quite get to point B, or why they couldn't move to the next step beyond it. But
yeah,
when you intentionally take a hard road to get where you're going, you learn so much more about yourself, about the operation. Like, you really come to learn and appreciate it more than just taking the easiest point from A to B. That may mean your path may end at step B. And like you say, where are you looking to go at life? And taking the hard road is sucks, but it's worth it.
I opt out of spending the tens of thousands of dollars of going to college first, until I knew, got my feet wet.
Yep.
And it proved in my instance to be a right decision. I got to be involved with some of the older heads, the guys that's been doing it for a while. Got exposed to a lot of different things where I would only be exposed to it 3 or 4 years after I gotten my degree, right?
Yeah.
And
well,
I think
that's something my wife and I talk about with our boys. We've got 13-year-old, so he's gonna be starting high school next year. We're not trying to map out his life for him,
right?
But one of the things that I insist on is, like, okay, the first couple of years, community college, let's face it, 3/4 of the classes are the same wherever you go. Hopefully he can knock a lot of those out in high school. But one thing we're insistent on is you're gonna learn a trade and you're gonna get a certification. I don't care if it's coding or welding or whatever it is, but you're going to do something and you're going to work somewhere. And I told him, I said, I don't care if you make a minimum wage. You're going to pay attention to where the materials are received, where they ship it out. When your manager corrects you, what's his thought process on telling you to do it that way and not that way? Just really understand and dissect this stuff.
Yeah. And it just helps. Again, in my instance, it helped me to apply it a little bit more and understand those concepts, right?
Yep.
When you go into school, and if you decide to go in an engineering field and so forth.
So what did you wind up getting your degree in?
Sorry?
So what did you wind up going to school for?
Mechanical and industrial engineering.
Okay.
And
broad.
material science.
You go to a lot of places, but gives you a better idea of what this stuff is.
So a lot of exposure again, and that helped me connect with a lot of SMEs in the field, in this space. Again, because of that welding path I took, I did a lot of publications. One of them being one in the American Welding Journal, where I did a presentation there for our Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey chapter.
That's pretty cool.
And kind of showed them, utilizing some of these methods and how it can be useful, with some of the applications that we can apply to.
That's pretty cool. So, so you went and kind of got the real world experience in welding, went to school for mechanical industrial engineering. Seems pretty common, but what was your next step after college?
So after college, kind of continued on the same path because now I had a broader, more robust understanding of the whole thing. And then after that, I decided to focus more into the quality, lean management, Six Sigma type roles, because it's something that intrigued me because I get to, being in a quality role, you kind of see or have your hands in every single department, right? And it was very unique, that to experience that because in different organizations they function so differently, and being exposed to that, you get some ideas of how to do things or improve on things that you thought you were doing right. First.
So this continual improvement thing like really is a real thing. It's not just something we slap together 10 minutes before the management review, right?
Right. Then even with doing audits, doing audits even internationally and, throughout the US, it exposed me to even more, but I think some of those applications helped me a lot more where, yes, the degree is great. It's good to have. But there's so much other different career paths where you can lead to without even, believe it or not, needing or having one. I spoke to someone just this morning, an educator, and one of the main problems that they're having right now is, yes, there's students that's enrolling in the programs, but before they even complete the programs, the oil and gas sectors, they're kind of pulling them in, without even completing their degrees. Online, if you look at some of the jobs, the jobs, they're kind of dwindling it down where some, 5 years ago, it's mandatory. You have to have a degree. Now they'll take a degree and or experience with it, right? So long story short, it comes down to how competent are you to perform that task. So I've heard that before. Right?
It's funny how we've kind of we've not quite gone 180, but we've gone pretty far around there.
So we're pretty close to that. Hey, sign this training record, please. This training.
When I was in, going in junior high and high school, like that's all you heard is if you don't have a degree, you can't get a job. And so I'm not devaluing what a college degree is or does.
Right.
I guess kind of sort of use mine. We've got a tech half of the company. We've got a service half the company. So the management information systems is helpful there. But I'll be honest with you, all the coding classes I took, I'd already done this stuff in high school. So I can't say that I learned a whole lot there. But the couple of management classes I had, one on like quantitative analysis, the macroeconomics, those were actually somewhat helpful. But all in all, the degree itself, it's kind of I don't know. It's kind of like you said. It's okay. We can have a degree, which shows dedication to completing a task, which is unfortunately a lot of folks don't have that dedication, or an equivalent experience in an area. And I guess if you can pair those two together with, like you say, the online class option, you really can set yourself ahead.
Like even the ASME calculations and so forth. Yes, that's an example where, yes, your degree would help you because you're understanding how to do calculations and interpreting and deciphering formulas and so forth. When you're calculating lifetime expectancies,
right.
I've been around both realms. I've been around people that's been doing this for 30 years, and they can give you figures pretty close using a pen and a piece of paper, and then I've been where, Excel spreadsheet, plug the numbers in, get it right. So it's just a matter of the field. And there is, like I said, value in your college education. It's just when you need it, what field you're in.
I agree.
Where you're going in and what level you intend to go in. And
I agree. And I think the path you took, I really like, and I would really kind of encourage anyone to try to do, I guess, in a kind of roundabout, pretty stupid way.
Yeah.
I did something similar. My stupid way was keep taking college classes to stay enrolled so I didn't have to start paying back the loans that I stupidly took out. But I did the same thing. I went and got in the workforce. I learned how to actually do something.
Yeah.
But it was 5 years after I took a job as a network administrator that I actually got my degree.
Right.
So, like I said, I had a very stupid, clunky path to get there, but the same idea. Go experience the real world,
Yeah.
then decide what you want to do. But,
Yeah.
you know, you get a little bit more, I guess, insight into this than I would. So what's the hindrance there? Why aren't folks willing to go work in a field and learn a trade and learn a skill and then go seek the college education? What's so much the push that we just have to ramrod it straight through and define the next 50 years of our life right away?
I think it's influence. Just, we still have that little voice in our ears, hey, college first. And if you can't do well in college, or if there's different trades that colleges don't offer those programs, then you fall back on something,
right,
like that. I think more and more the way that the world is shaping is that you have everything at your fingertips, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people are starting to use that to their advantage, right? And see the value, right? Because I've had plenty, friends that did the college, and then after college they decided, oh, I don't want to do this anymore, this looks interesting. Right.
Yeah.
And they just had to either go back to school or take extra classes, and here you are in $60,000 debt.
I know.
And then have to take out more loans.
I know.
So I went through mine, I would say kind of debt free, because that's one of the things I wanted to do. So
smart man.
I had the opportunity. I studied internationally, where they had programs that met curriculum and criteria and so forth, but it was cost effective for me, where I could be able to work, get the experience, and then be able to apply them real time, simultaneously. That helped me.
Smart way to do it. Hey, anyone listening here who's got some kids in high school or early in college, this is the example. This is the way we need to do it. Let's go debt free. Let's work and learn at the same time.
Yeah.
Way to go.
Yeah. I've been in several quality management roles as manager for various sizes companies, from 5 to, I would say, close to 400.
Yeah.
Every organization has those obstacles.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked in organizations where, 50 people, managing 50 people, it actually was a lot harder than managing 10 people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Or a lot easier, sorry. Than
I know what you mean. Yeah. It is. Once you get to a certain scale, and this is the whole point of management systems, is when you get to a certain scale, people simply know what to do and how to interact. And the more people you can add to an organization, the more specialized you can get their tasks. We all hear the joke about, well, wearing so many hats in a small business. Well, okay. One hand, that means we've got, lower payroll costs and more people that can do things, and there's benefits there, but it's also that task switching is horrible. It's absolutely horrible, that level of task switching necessary. So, you talking about that 50 person group, that's really about the largest that really any individual manager can maintain. Yeah. But there's a lot of efficiencies that can be built in. Now, once you exceed that level, a funny thing happens.
Right.
No one knows what anyone else is doing, and we're no longer treating people like people.
Yeah. Now, another good point to kind of put out there, this approach, right? It's another thing to consider too. It's the mentality of that individual, right? Yeah. That individual needs to look at, for example, like you said, hey, there's 50 different hats or 10 different hats, right? Mm-hmm. Look at those scenarios as positives. where everyone looks at it as a negative. Okay,
Yeah.
I may not be getting paid as much, or I'm doing 3 times as much work, but see the value in the long run. Guess what? It's giving me an opportunity to learn about other different things, whereas I may not have this opportunity had I been in a different organization or situation, right?
No.
And then you
Amen to
learn, you
that.
take that, and you continue to kind of build on that.
No, amen to that.
Whether it's courses online, whether it's college courses, things to get you to the point where you want to be. I don't think I've reached fully where I want to be yet. I've had some very strange projects, very interesting projects, internationally, here in the US, seen some, stuff that a lot of people hasn't seen before, or didn't think twice about. I like auditing. Auditing gives me that opportunity, like I said,
It's
to
fun.
understand and dig into to organizations, see how they do it. Yes, you can't consult, but you can see how they apply.
So much. It blows my mind how many intricate little details change between the ways 2 organizations solve the exact same problem. I mean, it just blows my mind. And it's so cool how much creativity is at play here. When you talk about ISO 9001 or API or any of this other stuff, it doesn't spark to anyone's mind. We need a really creative person there. We need someone with an open mind. No, you think that these are regimented. We need that dull technical writer with the glasses pushing up, and that's what we need, right? We need someone that's just sitting down on the books every day. But no, you really need someone with a creative spark to do this stuff.
Yes, definitely. I would 100% agree with you. I've been in situations where it was, hey, buy the book, let's just get us through, and that's it. And then I've been in situations where I had, mentors that was over me that saw that the same vision, the same crazy kind of thinking and concept that, look, let him explore those opportunities, those avenues, and be creative in those roles,
So what I'm hearing here is we need to have a long-term vision. We need to understand that work and learning go hand in hand with each other. And there's a value in leaders and mentors that will guide people, but also let them run a little bit free. Funny. These seem like old ideas, but, I guess they have to be renewed every once in a while.
Right. Even some of my upper management roles and so forth, when I, for example, looking at P&Ls and budgets and managing those things on the business side, I don't have a business degree. I mean, I know how to count, right? But it's understanding where the organization is gives you a good idea. Having good mentors, it's another big plus. Positive environment. People are willing to sit down, take the time, explain things to you.
This is something that I know you're fairly passionate about, and this is how you and I came about getting introduced to one another. Now, without going into any details, because nothing's finalized, and we don't want to give away anything too specific here, but this is something that you're working on, is trying to find opportunities to teach and train and educate folks, mentor them along the way, and give them some opportunities. So share a little bit there, again, without any specifics, because all the paperwork's not been signed yet.
Yeah. So we're looking at, presenting those opportunities. I think there's a lot of misconception within our, industry as a whole of paths that may confuse a lot of people that don't have that understanding. They may have a basic understanding of it, or may be, new to it, but it's so confusing because me stepping back and looking at it, different program offerings and things that's out there, it's very confusing for someone, when really it's a basic thing, right? It's no different. Here's
how you read the technical docs. Here's how you read the standards. Here's how you do it.
Interpreting a standard is the hardest thing.
It is. And there's a lot of ways to do it. And doesn't mean one's necessarily right or the other, but create a defensible argument for yourself.
Yeah. And build that confidence in them. I think in some cases, I've seen some of the best quality managers or inspectors came out of not even being in this field and going into it, because it's the perspective that they have coming into it. They see things outside the box. Right. The same reason why certain companies, they kind of, hire external auditors to do internal audits.
It is. You get a very different perspective. I just 30 minutes per week hopped on here to record. I was having a conversation with the company that we did the external audit for. Well, I say external audit. We did a second party internal audit, which is a whole other thing we could have a whole episode on. And that was exactly what he was saying. He's like, Kyle, this audit was fantastic. Y'all found so many things that we had never really paid attention to. And he said, we've always done our own internal audits before. So I guess first party internal audit. And he said, honestly, Kyle, I always kind of thought it, but this proved it. It was kind of a bullcrap approach to auditing. We don't really dig deep into anything. And you're not going to create more work for yourself.
Right.
He's like, y'all did a good job.
Yeah. And it's bridging that gap, right? That age, in the 20s to 30, 40 year plus olds that want to jump into something new, or, professionals that's been in the industry for a little while, that we can kind of bridge that gap between the technical application and the practical application to it.
Yeah. And so, some of the things that I know you're working on, and, stop me if I'm sharing any too many details here, but, you're looking at helping to put together some courses for like community colleges where average folks can attend and go and not break the bank and do it debt free and do it the smart way and do it while they work, for some of these fundamental skills that folks need for management, for quality, for auditing. And it blows my mind that this isn't a thing already.
Well, I think a lot of it with the institutions, it's governed by how much they have on their curriculum, right, to do. There's still some technical things that we're working through there to get it to that point. But it gives the opportunity for community involvement as well. It takes someone that's dedicated to look at the overall, within the area, the county where they reside in, and see the potential growth there. Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Where's the growth? Where's the demand? I've had, actually, it was it's funny. I took my daughter to the park the other day, and there's a guy there. So we were talking, and he said his son is going to high school. I'm like, okay, so what is he going to do afterwards? He doesn't know yet.
Yeah.
So his son actually happened to be there. I'm like, hey, what are you going to do for high school? After high school? I don't know yet. The high school, everyone is just trained. All they train you to do is basically work in a power plant or in a, oil facility. And I sat back and I thought about it, and I started doing a little bit more research on it. And I'm like, it depends on where you live. It's focused to that, right? And not to where, hey, where can I be more creative, more effective where I am? And it's to stir that up, like the 9001, for example. Not only, all companies, the surface companies use it. 9001, it's a global standard that, different.
If you understand 9001, you understand how to interpret it, a variety of ways it can be implemented, it opens the door for darn near everything else. And this is something you and I have had fun talking about before. It's like from reading the CFRs for, food safety and drugs and pharmaceuticals to safety standards. Like, it just opens the door for so much more. But I asked someone a while back, I said, when I say ISO 9001, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? And he said, my pillow. I'm like, your pillow? He said, yeah, because it puts me to sleep. And it shouldn't have to be this way.
Right.
So
There's some more things that we're looking at in the different areas like environmental quality. Okay, not only doing the classes, but bring in a couple of people, do a small seminar with representatives from Texas Environmental Quality. Talk about what you guys do, what you guys require. What are some of the things that you guys would want to see and expect from not only an individual but an organization. So you understand what you're looking at. EPA, this is the same thing.
Well, I was talking to someone else. I think this podcast probably we're pre-recording a few of these. So this one's probably going to air a week before ours. So let's time out well. And he was talking about how the external audit. You got to recognize that even that external auditor who's there leaving findings and grilling you and trying to find every problem he can. They're really on your side. What they're doing is a good service to you. So don't see it so much as this battle that we've got to fight the findings with them. And it's somewhat similar. It has to be approached differently but with someone like TCAQ or OSHA or whatever the other case is, or EPA, if you're outside of Texas, Texas has its own Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. Effectively EPA plus. I don't think most folks realize that outside of some of the bonkers environmental regulations in California, Texas is probably the toughest in the nation. In any case, little rabbit trail to go down there. But these folks as well, it needs to be a good, useful back and forth relationship. This shouldn't be such a tough adversarial, one of us has to win type relationship. And so I think opportunities like that would be fantastic. Let's have someone from the EPA come in that does this work, that leaves these findings for these companies, and let's talk to them like they're, I don't know, a person.
Go down that approach and understand, part of that auditor training. It's not only even with the step to becoming there. You have to understand what you're auditing. How you're auditing, and again, I'm going to say that again. It heavily depends on the mentality or the approach of the individual that's doing it. Right? How do you see those? Right? Yes, I've been in situations as well. I had a lot of company pressure, no findings, or we don't want to do this. Where
I hate that no finding is being the goal.
When I see an audit, and it took me a while. Some organizations they're so different, but it took me a while to persuade some of the tougher ones. Yes, we want findings.
Yes.
If we don't have findings, there's something wrong with our process.
Yes. Either you are the world's greatest bullshitter, which isn't good in the long run, or you've got a crappy auditor. That's really what it's going to boil down to.
So one company, it just, as you said that, it distinctly reminded me. And now they've taken that approach, and by doing that and embracing it rather than deflecting it, right? They were able to look at things they weren't looking at before, streamline their process, maximize efficiency, and minimize defects. But these are things where you can do this in a practical way. Once you understand the basic concepts, for example, I know we were talking about auditing, but if you're getting into the non-destructive field and manufacturing, understand the fundamentals, the process, and the standards and how it's applying to that particular process.
No, absolutely. When we engage in consultation projects, the first one of, I would say the first thing, it's not the absolute first task, but one of the first tasks in that first week is we send one of our team members out there just to shadow folks in the company. Our goal is to learn as much about the ins and outs from the floor as we possibly can. If we can get someone that is not the manager to shadow us around, even stinking better. Because the manager knows how it should be done, but that doesn't mean it's how it's getting done.
I mean, there's some facilities I walk in sometimes, doing audits, and you get the kind of sense of, maybe
you can almost smell it.
Right. And then certain documents, right? You look at, hey, management review, for example, Okay, let's look at that. Let's look at how, that's looking. And that gives me a good sense of where the organization is.
Yep.
But speaking to the guys that's on the floor, directly on the floor, and, getting some of their advice or their responses kind of tell you a lot more.
It does.
Where those are. I mean,
does.
I've had, auditors that tell me, hey, and I've seen it even through auditing is, some of your most common areas for non-conformances, calibration, training records.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is always the low hanging fruit.
It's the low hanging
fruit. It is.
But I like to kind of leave them with some value there, and being able to have that additional experience, helps me kind of do that and not consult with them, but make them understand why it's that way. Some of them have tried
There's a difference in explaining why this clause matters versus telling them how to implement it.
Right.
There's a very clear line between the two.
Yeah. But
so I got one more idea I want to kind of post you and get your feedback on. So we already see how there's kind of a gap between college education, trade schools, but then some level of implementation in between, which is, I know, is something you're working real hard to help fill that gap. But another gap that I see, and this is coming from me, I am by nature an ardent introvert. Doing this stuff, doing the sales calls, talking to folks, it's totally a learned skill, not my nature. I'm a computer geek. That's me, right? Okay. So with that said, we see, you've got lots of very business-focused, technically focused skills. And then you've got these other coaches out here who are, the EQ type folks and interpersonal and understanding people's feelings. But it's like, that seems almost detached from the reality. It seems like there's another gap here as well. We did a series a while back on the fundamental principles on the quality management, right? And it blew folks' mind how so much of this is soft skills. Yes. What do you think about this soft skills gap in the management world we live and breathe in?
Yeah, I think that's correct. Having some of that soft skills there, it's definitely there. I've seen managers that have that all the technical experience, been doing it by the book for so long, and then you have a creative mind that comes in that doesn't know, isn't up to that level, but can see things in a different way.
And how do you get the two to communicate to each other where they're not at odds with one another?
Well, that's the thing. That's where managing, understanding different people's capabilities, their strengths and weaknesses. Okay, and identifying how you can bridge that gap. My approach, and I've always used this as approach, empathy, and pushing them to understand that being a servant leader to them, right? Giving them the tools that they need to be able to do it. Communicate, work together, right? And being there, allowing them to do that. A lot of environments, it's not practiced as much. Being that in that way, that servant leadership.
And that is a tough one for a lot of folks to wrap their head around. And again, I see so many people take it to an extreme, and it's like, okay, well, I'm the boss. I'm going to tell you what to do. This is what you do. On the other hand, if you push it too far to the extreme, you get the manager that's the pushover and is never really effective at doing anything. And that is a tough balance to strike.
That I have overcame that. Again, what helped me is going to different countries, meeting different people, talking to people from different cultures, and understanding how even different levels, auditing, for example, helped me do that, because you're talking to executive and management team, yet you're speaking to guys on the shop floor.
It's not the same conversation.
It's definitely not the same conversation.
Your body language has to be different. Your tone is different. Everything has to change. You have to respond to who you're talking to,
and you have and working there, getting your hands dirty first, and doing that allows you to understand that nature and aspect of it.
Probably the best thing that helped me there, and folks listening to this are probably going to laugh. But I worked for Best Buy for a few years, going to college. It was great. I could kind of set my schedule. I was just Geek Squad supervisor, right? But it let me set my schedule and whatnot. But what helped me the most is they would force us to do these goofy role plays. And the manager at this store really, truly believed in them. Now, I didn't respect what she was doing at the time. In hindsight, I'm like, oh my gosh, this was fantastic. And we would have, hours a week where we're doing role plays. And if there was any downtime in our department, we were cleaning and role playing. And that was what we did. And she'd set up all these weird, crazy scenarios. And, we'd have to go through it. But it forced you to put your head in the position of and again, I know we're talking about retail sales, but these skills translate. You have to put on the persona of a certain customer with a certain budget, with certain needs and certain family and all this type of stuff. And then the other person has no idea the phony persona you were just given. And they've got to try to extract it out of you. And of course, we'd be fun with it and be difficult, but it helps you learn. Yeah. And as silly as it is, that was huge for me. And heck, I've started doing that with my kids at home. My 13-year-old, he can butt heads with my wife pretty good sometimes. And so I'll be like, all right, stop, let's detach. And I'll be like, all right, buddy, I'm your mama. All right. So I'm going to respond like mama would respond. And I'm going to correct you when you mess up.
Right.
And it works similar in the workplace. I've done that with audits as well, getting companies ready for an audit.
Yeah. I mean, definitely the servant leadership approach, again, worked for me. There's another skill set that I think needs to kind of improve on is how to understand people before you manage them, right? Yeah. Let's understand your people. Now, some would say, hey, that's our culture. That's where we define what our culture is. But if you go into companies and you read their culture, their culture statement.
Not everyone's going to fit that very well.
And
you can't have too many of the same type minded people either.
Right.
We're getting ready to make another hire here. We've not made the decision to move forward yet, but we know with the workload as it's going that we've got to hire someone soon, or we're all going to be working more hours than we want to work. Right. And that's part of our thing here is that I don't want people to regularly have to work more than 45, 50 hours a week. Now, it doesn't mean stuff happens. You work a long week. It happens. We know. But I don't want that to be a part of what we're doing here. So we're trying to find someone new. And so I've been talking to Darcy and a couple other members of the team and about, who are we going to hire? What are they going to do? And that's the first question everyone asks. Well, what's your job going to be? And I'm like, well, I really don't know. You're like, what? I'm like, well, and the way we do it is we have an org chart. And so we've got all the positions that I know eventually the company is going to need as we grow. But what it means right now is you might have 3 of those job descriptions. Right. And one might be 50% of your time, another one's 10, and another one's whatever. Right. And so whoever this next hire is, and the team's understanding of it, they're like, we know this is going to shuffle all of our duties and responsibilities, but we're kind of like, well, we got to see what this new person's good at before we pigeonhole them somewhere.
You assess their competency and utilize their strengths, right? You utilize their strengths to help the others in your areas or the organization that's weak in those areas. Yeah. And you try to match them up with them as much as possible where they can pull and help each other along.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
A lot of managers, they don't understand that concept.
No.
They don't understand how that actually works, but it does, the mentality of your team, it plays a drastic role on the direction of the organization.
It does. I mean, it absolutely does. And I'm not saying that this is the best approach for everyone.
Right.
But we're a small team. We have a fairly narrow range of services that we perform, right? So in that sense, it works out well. But if on the other hand, we had a whole other branch and division over here that did something completely different, okay, this wouldn't work for picking someone over there. But it's a great solution for finding someone within a team. And you're right about the servant leadership part is I can't just put them in there and say, do the job. I mean, we have, my gosh, on a daily basis, I think even in the time that we've had on here for the podcast, I've had someone message me on Teams 4 times. Right?
Yeah. It's, implementing certain things, like a EOS system, level 10 meetings, for example. Not a lot of people, and I was shocked that not a lot of people understand a level 10 meeting and the benefits of a level 10 meeting, and laying out your goals, right? Your 3-year, 5-year.
We do something a little different here. What we have is what we call our weekly set and met. And so I have them fill out a little Microsoft form every week. And honestly, we don't spend too much time going through the data they fill out the form. I like to look at it for 2 things. We've got some very basic questions on there. What was the high point of your week? What was the low point of your week? Most of the time they put work-related stuff on there. Sometimes they don't. Like,
right.
Well, okay, cool. I know what's going on with this person, and they feel comfortable letting me know about it. That's fantastic. And I'll ask them, what was your stress level? From a 1 to 5, 1 being not enough, 5 being too much. What was your workload? Same thing. 1 not enough, 5 being too much. And I want to try to keep folks in about that 3 to 4 range. Want them hit the 5 too much. But then I can look at it and kind of trend it and be like, oh, I really am. I'm kind of stressing the crap out of these folks here.
Right.
But it only takes 10 minutes of my time to go through and review it. But I get so much more out of it. And then we have a weekly 30-minute meeting. And honestly, it's rarely even 30 minutes of, okay, cool. So what are your goals for this week? Great. Well, I see this was your goal last week. Did you get that accomplished? Did you finish it? Did you need help with it? Did you get help with it if you had a problem?
Right.
And we can move on.
Right. Yeah. EOS it's like I said, the level 10, it's more direct, straight impact, only focused on negatives. And it kind of addresses a lot of, cuts your meeting time down drastically. Another example, I've been at an organization and their meetings was 2 hours long, twice a week.
Oh my gosh.
There was literally guys falling asleep there. Where we cut that down to, I think, 15 or 20 minutes, and we actually got more accomplished.
Yeah, any more than that, and you're going to start getting into the weeds on details that aren't pertinent for the purpose of that meeting.
Right.
So... No, we could probably go on for another couple hours here, and I'm probably gonna have you back on talk about some of these topics. But for time's sake, we've probably got to end it here. So, any final thoughts or ideas you want to leave folks with about from education, quality management, which they're all linked, by the way?
I think it's always keep an open mind. A different perspective on things. Where everyone, the crowd may seem to shy away from doing more, embrace it, because it only helps you later on understand the whole process.
Amen.
And also, look at your alternatives. Look at your alternatives before jumping in and doing a college program, unless you're definitely sure this is what you want to do. Step back and get your feet wet.
Taking a year or 2 of your life to work a job with an open and keen eye could save you $100,000 and 10 years of wasted time. It's worth it.
Definitely,
it's worth it. And hopefully you can keep making some progress, and we can share some actual details with folks, not these goofy teasers we're doing right now. But I'm really excited about the stuff you're working on, because I think it's going to be fantastic for filling the technical skills, the soft skills, and real world application.
Yes.
And I think that's fantastic. So definitely once we get something firm and this goofy teaser, we're going to have you back on to talk about it and let folks know what they can do to get in advance in their career and their life.
Great. All right.
Awesome, man. I appreciate your time. You take care.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everyone. If you have not already, make sure you subscribe to the Quality Matters podcast. We are streaming on YouTube, Rumble, Audible, you name it. We're putting it out there everywhere. We believe in quality and quality management and what it can do in your work, your home, your life, community as a whole. When we attack things in a dedicated, processed manner, the world can change, and it starts with you and your workplace and your home life. If you need help with anything around this topic, be sure to contact us. You can contact me directly. You can find me on LinkedIn. All the information is going to be below. I'd love to talk with you, see what we can do about helping your organization streamline and better manage some of these processes. So we look forward to hearing from you soon. Again, be sure to like, subscribe, and share the podcast if you value what we do. Y'all take care.